I will no longer live my life and tell myself I am a late bloomer. This is one of the most crippling mindsets that you can have at any stage of your life. I don't care if you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. This is a crippling mindset to have at any stage of your life. So if this is something that you have experienced, I want you to keep on watching this video. Just to give you a little bit of backstory, I'm 33 years old. I'm a college dropout. I got married when I was 21. I had all three of my kids by the time I was 25. I spent my 20s with very different priorities and responsibilities. For me, obviously, I was a wife, I was a mother. I had to help run a household. When we think of a typical 20-year-old, we think of somebody who is in college, someone who is single, someone who is experiencing life and getting to know themselves as an individual person. So again, I didn't have this experience in my 20s. So by the time I got to 30, 31 years old, I started thinking about, okay, what woman do I want to be? Who is the person that I want to become? Do I want to establish a career for myself? So you guys can see just a little bit of my backstory. I don't want to go too far in depth, but I am someone who would be considered a late bloomer. But this is where this mindset is going to get you. It is going to have you living your life in constant comparison. You're going to keep looking at your neighbors, looking at your friends, looking at everyone on social media, thinking that you have made mistakes in your life. And that is not true. Yes, everyone makes bad choices at a point in time. I have made several bad choices, but that doesn't mean that my life is off track, that my life is less than someone else's just because I haven't reached certain milestones in my life. Let's look at some of the facts of being late, right? If you set a lunch meeting with your girlfriend and you're running 20 minutes behind, you're late, okay? If you are in traffic and you know you need to pick your kids up from school, you're already running 5 minutes behind, but now you have reached traffic and it's adding another 15 minutes. You are late at that point. If you miss your period, sweetie, you are late. Day-to-day activities that we experience every single day, depending on the circumstances, can cause us to be considered late. But we have got to stop measuring our life experiences, like the big moments of life. We have to stop measuring those by early, on time, or late. So let's go ahead and spend a little bit of time today discussing why it's so important to realize that you can reinvent and rebrand yourself at any given moment. I love the fact that you can just wake up one day and decide to be a different person. You truly can. So let's spend some time talking about that and why it's so important to get away from that late bloomer mentality. If you have not been here before, my name is Tony. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. If you are coming back, hey girl, hey, y'all already know we are going to get into a really good conversation. If you want some of the more cutesy stuff, glitz and glam, makeup, all of that, you can check out my short form platforms. Links are down below, because here on YouTube, I love to just keep it centered around the conversation. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. So what is this late bloomer mentality anyway? It's exactly how it sounds. It's that overall general feeling that you get in your gut. You get that tightness in your chest and you're like, I am so behind in life. But we do this because we keep looking at our age and then we think, oh, well, I should have had X, Y, and Z already accomplished by this point. There are two specific reasons that we put ourselves into this type of mindset. First key indicator that you're someone who considers yourself a late bloomer is that you live by someone else's timelines and standards. I'm not telling you guys that it's bad to make a timeline. We all do it. When I was in high school, I probably told myself, well, I want to be able to buy a house by the time I'm 30. I want to have 2 kids by the time I'm 30. I want to have a big wedding. We all sit and kind of map out this idea, or we create this invisible timeline in our mind of the things that we want to accomplish at certain times in our life. But that is not always the story. But the thing is, we've locked in so much to what we tell ourselves is going to happen that we're not allowing life to actually happen. We're not allowing ourselves to experience life as it happens. And sometimes when life is happening, you'll realize that there are certain things that need to shift in your life, but we don't shift them. So then we end up forcing ourselves to stay by this timeline. Well, then when we fail, it damages us. It crushes our spirits. It makes us feel like, man, I didn't do what I said I was going to do, or man, I'm so behind in life, or I haven't done what this person over here did. So that makes me inferior to them or inadequate to them. And that is not true. Not to mention, I want you to think about what this is doing to your self-esteem. Think about how your self-esteem is being chipped away at every single time you compare yourself, every single time that you look at someone else and you wish you had their life. It is eating away at your self-esteem. You're feeling depressed, you're feeling low, you're feeling sad, you're feeling like your life is just not worth living. These are very real feelings that you can begin to have. Now, I never got to a point where I felt like my life wasn't worth living, but I did get to a point where I felt very low. Finances weren't right. I didn't have a career. I'm just working this job and that job. And yes, I'm acquiring skills, but I don't have anything steady. I don't have anything that I can fall back on, a degree or anything like that I can fall back on. So I got to a point where I was very low. I was feeling like, man, I'm in my 30s and I have nothing to show for it. I think that's something that we tell ourselves as well, is I don't have anything to show for it. I spent $25,000 one year within like 6 months and I had nothing to show for it. And this is a legit true story. But I'm just giving that example to say sometimes you don't have anything to show for it. Sometimes it's just about the growth. Sometimes it's about the lessons that you learned during that time, but we can't see it that way. We're blocking ourselves from being able to see the good because all we can see is, well, I'm so far behind my cousin. I'm so far behind my best friend. I'm so far behind where my mom was at my age. We can't see the growth that we've actually had. Some of us, and honestly, I can say myself included, we get to a point where we always feel like we're that person on the wing and somebody else is center stage and we're always clapping for them. We're clapping because they have reached all of the milestones that they wanted to reach in their life, and we feel like we're always congratulating someone else. This late bloomer mentality, when you're clapping, secretly you're feeling envious. Secretly you're feeling jealousy in your heart because you wish it was your turn. And I want you to think about how this can be very damaging to the relationships that you have around you, with your spouse, with your friends, with your work relationships, anything. I want you to think about how damaging this can become, because even that slight little bit of envy or jealousy that pops up in your heart when you're trying to clap for that other person is going to consume you. So you have to take yourself out of this late bloomer mentality and say, you know, it may not be my time yet. But again, when we're thinking about reinventing ourselves and rebranding ourselves, we can wake up at any moment, decide to do differently, decide to make different choices. That way, when we're clapping, we are sincerely clapping for those around us. And we know I'm clapping for you right now and I am happy for you, but I know I'm going to have a moment in that spotlight too. It might not be right now, but it's going to come, and it's going to come because I have decided to take back control of my life, take back control of my mental health and my mental space, and make better decisions for my life. Which brings me into my second point as to why someone would consider themselves a late bloomer, and that is because we simply just don't like to take accountability for our bad choices. Like I told you guys, I am a college dropout. That's nobody else's fault. I made bad decisions. I wasn't disciplined with my time. I wanted to party. I wanted to hang out. I wanted to be the cute, fun girl. I was all of that. I made choices that put me in the predicament that I was in. You have to take ownership of those past experiences, but not only that, take ownership and then say, I can leave this here now. Sometimes we just continuously live in the past and we're always trying to go backwards and correct what we did wrong. What you did in the past is done and over with. Again, I was a woman in my 20s who decided to get married young, who decided to have kids young, who decided to take on responsibilities at that time that I probably was not ready for. I cannot go back and change that. So what that I didn't get to become the woman that I wanted to be in my 20s? I'm still breathing. I'm right here making this video. So that means I'm breathing, I'm functioning, everything is working. I have time and I can decide today, okay, starting from 33 years old, I am going to make different decisions that I did in my 20s, and I can take ownership still right now. Take ownership in the bad choices and take ownership in the good choices. That way I can look up a year from now. I can look up 2 years from now. I can look up 5 years from now. And I can say, you know what? At 33 years old, I decided that I was going to be accountable for every single decision that I made. When you are putting yourself in a mind space of being accountable for every single choice, it makes you operate a little bit differently in your day-to-day. It makes you think about every choice that you need to make. Recognizing the signs of having a late bloomer mentality is very, very simple, because 9 times out of 10 is going to be associated with one of the big moments that happen in life, right? So if maybe someone close to you has just bought a home and you want to be happy for them, you truly do, but you're still renting, your credit is messed up, you still have work to do. These are things that you want to do, but you haven't gotten there yet. You haven't gotten your foot on the right path yet, and you're feeling like these knots in your stomach. You're feeling like you want to break out in sweats, and you're like, man, I'm so happy for them, but man, what am I doing wrong? That right there, that is that late bloomer mentality taking over your mindset. It's that right there, that specific question, what am I doing wrong? That is a clear sign that you are someone who has that late bloomer mentality. We don't have to ask ourselves what we did wrong. Stop asking yourself what you did wrong and start telling yourself, what can I do in this moment to move me forward? Another big one, you guys, is marriage. I feel like I hear marriage talked about a lot. Feeling like, oh my gosh, I should have been married by the time I was 30, 35, 40. I should have had a stable life with someone I love. This is a big one for a lot of people. And I want you to understand that until you can take that accountability in your life, until you can work on healing yourself, remove that envy and that jealousy, and fully be able to applaud someone from the curtains on the side when they're in the spotlight. Until you get to that point, that perfect person that you're looking for is not going to manifest. He's not or she's not going to come into your presence yet until you get through certain things. So just remember, it's all about shifting your mindset. If you want to be married, if you desire to be married and you're desiring that perfect person to come along, or that perfect person for you, because obviously nobody in life is perfect, but there is a perfect person for you. You've got to do some internal work first. That way, when that person comes to meet you, you're prepared for them. Internally, externally, all of it. You are prepared for that person to be in your space. And just like marriage is a big one, career is a big one. We feel like we should have our careers perfectly mapped out by the time we're 30. We should have our bachelor's degree, our master's degree. We should have 5 years on the field or in the field that we've chosen. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you may just be a person that doesn't know what you want to do. I was someone like that. And honestly, had I recognized that earlier on and not wasted so much time in school and not wasted so much money racking up financial aid, I would have taken a step back to actually figure out what I wanted to do. I probably changed my major 4 times when I was in school, and I didn't have that clear understanding of what I wanted to do. Now in my 30s, I know that for myself. Everybody doesn't just know right off the top of your head. And if you're someone in your 20s right now watching this, I want you to hear me and hear me well. If you are unclear of what you want to do not go to school and rack up a bunch of debt. It's not worth it. Take time, figure out what you want to do. Maybe you do decide to go work a regular job or whatever you can find that makes good money. Work that job for 5 to 10 years if you want to. And then in your 30s or mid 30s, you can always go back to school. One of the best things that you can do for yourself right now is to assess your beliefs and assess your feelings. That is going to be one of the very key things that helps you get off of someone else's timeline, get off of someone else's standards, and start living by your own standards. You need to have a very clear understanding of your beliefs, what you value, what is most important to you, what you desire, what your goals are, what your feelings are. You need to have a very clear understanding of that. Doing that self-assessment is going to make the power of your reinvention that much stronger. You guys, The choice is now. The choice is right now for you to decide, even after you watch this video, or maybe you go to sleep and you think about it and you wake up the next day and you say, you know, I am going to reinvent myself. I'm not going to be this old person. Whatever I have to do, whatever habits I need to create, whatever changes I need to go through, whatever healing I need to do, I'm going to do it because I don't want to continue to live my life on the path that that person is. I need to shift away from being that old person, and I need to get myself on a new lane so that I can have a better tomorrow versus what I experienced the day before. Let's just briefly talk about rebranding for a second. So I know a lot of people's first thought when they hear the word rebranding is they think, oh, it's somebody with a business and they're going through a rebrand. Maybe they're freshening up the fonts that they use, the color scheme, their logo. Let me tell you this. Having a personal brand is something that everybody can have. You do not have to have a business to have a personal brand. So as you travel through this reinvention process, highly consider creating a personal brand for yourself. A couple of ways that you can figure out what that personal brand is going to look like is starting with that self-assessment that I talked about. You need to have as much clarity about your process as possible. That way, when you're going through it, you can't be persuaded to do other things during that process. When I started my TikTok 2 years ago or almost 3 years ago, I started one way, but then I was slightly persuaded during the time because I got to a point where I'm like, oh, well, maybe this will work. Maybe that'll work. I can try this look. I can try that. And I started just kind of being all over the place. One thing about a personal brand that I stress is to have clarity, have a clear understanding, again, of your values, what your standards are, how you're feeling, your goals. What do you look like? What do you dress like? What does your makeup look like if you're someone who likes to do makeup? So think about these things and be very clear about what you want to see as you're building out your own personal brand. Think about community during this time. If there are people that you really just need to step away from in life, I get it. Sometimes it's hard to walk away from people, especially when you've spent years and years building relationships with these people. But guess what? Either you're going to choose them and their happiness, or you are going to choose you and your happiness. And it really is that simple. And I'm sorry, I'm at a point in life where I am going to choose me because only I can gain happiness in my life. Only I can create the peace that I want in my life. So you have to really get into that season of I'm choosing me above all else. I really do hope this video helped at least one person out there because I feel like, especially for us living in our 30s and 40s, I feel like we're kind of looking at the 20-year-olds that are out right now and we're like, you know, they're living in the apartments and townhomes and homes that we want. They're driving the cars that we want. How is it that they make all this money and most of them just do social media when we have to work 9 to 5s and this and that? You guys, look, you got to think there was a difference in time. There was a difference in technology. There are a lot of factors that come into play. But although those factors are there, you are still right on time. You still have the capability to decide today to just do differently. Just like they have acquired the same, acquired certain things, you can acquire those same things if that's just truly what you desire. But make sure it's your desire and not this need to acquire certain things just so you can say, haha, I got it too. Do things for you. Do things because that is what the standard is for your life. You are not late. You are right on time. So I want you to remember that. Repeat it to yourself every day if you need to. But again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I loved making it. And fun fact, this is actually my second time recording this video because it was supposed to go out last Friday. And I got to the editing process and my sound was gone. But honestly, I feel like no mistakes were made. I was meant to do this video a second time because now that I'm realizing I got a lot more thoughts out this time. But anyway, I am so glad that you guys clicked on today's video and yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. Until next time, my loves.